It was Adelia's turn to gape at her companion. As the mist of fury glared from her eyes, she saw him clearly for the first time. He was tall and powerfully built, and the sleeves of his shirt were carelessly rolled above the elbows, revealing deeply tanned, muscular arms. He had chiseled features, clear and sharp, and his eyes were so blue against the brown of his skin that they startled the casual onlooker. His hair was rich and full, thick black curls and disarming disarray to his collar, and a mouth that continued to grin at her was well formed, showing strong white teeth. This was the man she was to work for. This was the man she needed to impress. Adelia's brain registered numbly, and she had just raked him clean with her furious tongue. Checkers, she whispered, shutting her eyes a moment and wishing she could disappear in a puff of smoke. I'm sorry we met under such, he hesitated, his mouth twitching again, confusing circumstances, Adelia. Paddy's been on top of the world since he made arrangements to bring you over from Ireland. I didn't expect to be meeting you till tomorrow, Mr. Grant. She clung desperately to pride and kept her voice even. Uncle Paddy said you won't be back. I didn't expect to find a half-pint fairy invading my staples, Travis returned. Adelia threw him a haughty look. I couldn't sleep, so I came for a walk. I was thinking I might look in on Majesty. Majesty is a very high-strung animal. You would best keep a respectable distance. And how will I be doing that? I am to be exercising him regularly. The devil you are! If you think I would let a slip of a thing like you on my prize colt, you have lost your senses. I have already been on your prize colt. I rode around your track on him in fine time. I don't believe it. Paddy wouldn't let you up on Majesty. I'm not in habit of flying, Mr. Grant. The boy Tom got a kick for his trouble, so I rode Majesty instead. You rode Majesty? That I did. He's a beauty, rides like the wind, but he's not bad-tempered. He wouldn't have been kicking Tom if the boy had understood him better. The poor thing just needed someone to talk to him, someone to show him he was loved and appreciated. And you can talk to horses. Aye, anyone can if they have the mind to. I know animals, Mr. Grant. I worked with the vet back in Skibbereen, and I know a bit about healing as well. I would never do anything to bring harm to Majesty or any of your other horses. Uncle Paddy trusted me. You mustn't be angry with him. Mr. Grant, please give me a chance. A fortnight, no more. If you don't want me after that, just tell me, and I'll abide by your decision. I'll tell Uncle Paddy I'm not happy with the job, and I want to be doing something else. And why would you do that? It's what I would have to do. Otherwise, I would be putting him in the middle. He's devoted to you and to this place. I know that from the letters he wrote me, but he's taken me on as his responsibility now. If I told him you had fired me, his loyalties would be torn in two. I'll not be the cause of that. Will you give me a 2-week trial, Mr. Grant? All right, Adelia. You will have your 2-week trial, just between us. Thank you, Mr. Grant. I'm grateful to you. Grant accepted the hand that Adelia extended. Her hand was exquisitely small, fingers long and tapering, but it was rough and calloused from years of the abuse of labor. The continued contact was sending odd tingles through her body, and she looked down helplessly at the hand under his critical scrutiny. Is something the matter? She asked in a voice she barely recognized. He raised his eyes and looked into hers with an expression she could not fathom. It's a crime for such a tiny hand to be as hard and rough as any ditch digger's. Unaccountably stung by his softly spoken words, she jerked her hand away, holding it behind her back. I am sorry they're not as soft as Lily, Mr. Grant, but it's not ladies' hands I'll be needing for the job I'm doing for you. If you'll excuse me now, I'll be going in. And she moved past him quickly. Next day, Adelia was up early, fixed breakfast, and had a quick conversation early in the day with Uncle Paddy and informed him that she has already met Travis, and she also informed him that he had hired him as exercise boy. A short time later, Adelia stood in front of Majesty, rubbing his muzzle and holding an intimate conversation, unaware her actions were being observed by a pair of deep blue eyes. Morning, Paddy. I hear you have taken on a new hand. Paddy broke off his conversation with Hank and greeted the tall, lean man. Good morning to you, Travis. You told me she met you last night. Did she? Wait, his lips curved as he continued to regard woman and horse. Wait till you see that little lady ride. Hank put in, shaking his head. Could have knocked me over with a feather. Travis inclined his head. We'll see soon. He moved to where Adelia still stood, speaking softly to large Thoroughbred. Hello again, Half-Pint. Does your friend ever answer you? Aye, that he does, Mr. Grant, in his own way. She brushed past him to mount, and Travis stopped her with a hand on her wrist. Good Lord, did I do that? He ran a finger over the dark smudge of bruises on her arm, and Adelia followed his glance before raising her eyes to his. That you did. We'll have to be more careful with you in future, won't we, Lildy? Not the first bruising I've had, nor likely to be the last, but you will not be having any more occasions to be grabbing at me, Mr. Grant. With this, she swung herself astride Majesty and rode him onto the track. You wouldn't have been thinking I had lost my senses hiring my niece now, would you, lad? I'll admit when she told me she'd been hired, I had a moment of doubt about your sanity, but I've always trusted your judgment, Paddy. You've never let me down. Later that morning, Adelia worked in the stables, insisting over Paddy's objections that she assist in the grooming of some of the horses. A sound behind her caused her to turn her head, and she closed her eyes in mock alarm. Saints preserve us, sure, and it's losing my mind I am, seeing double. The boys collapsed into giggles and spoke in unison. We are twins. Is that the truth? Well, I'm glad to know it. I was afraid a spell had been put upon me. You talk just like Paddy, when the boy observed. Do I? Now? She smiled at boys. They were around 8, dark as gypsies with snapping brown eyes. The reason for that may be that I'm his niece, Adelia Cunnan, just arrived from Ireland. He calls you little D, but you're not little, you're all grown up. That I am, as far as I ever will be, I'm afraid. But I was just a wee babe when I last saw Uncle Paddy, and never did grow very tall, so I'm little D to him. And what might your names be? Mark and Mike. Don't be telling me who's who. I'll guess. I'm mighty good at guessing. You would be Mark, and you would be Mike. How did you know? Mark demanded. I'm Irish. There's many of us from Ireland who's Fae. Fae? What's that? That means I have strange secret powers. Boys looked at each other and back at Adelia, suitably impressed. Mark, Mike, a woman entered the stables and shook her head in despair. I should have known the pair of you would be here. I hope they haven't been bothering you. The woman peered down in indulgent exasperation. They're impossible to keep track of. No, missus, they're fine lads. We've just been getting acquainted. You must be Paddy's niece, Adelia. I, missus. I'm Trish Collins, Travis's sister. At that moment, Travis entered the building along with Paddy and a small, spare man Adelia did not recognize. Paddy, well, if it isn't Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and what mischief have you been up to this fine day? We came to meet thee. She guessed which one of us was which. She is Fay. Aye, that's a fact. There's been many at Canaan who's had the sight. Adelia Cannon, Travis made introductions. Dr. Robert Loman, our vet. Pleased to meet you, Doctor. Rob's come to look over Solomon. She'll be falling soon. Would you like to see her, Adelia? Travis raised his brows. Very much. She is falling quite late. A thoroughbred's official birthday is January the 1st, and normally we breed with that in mind. We just acquired Salome 6 months ago, and of course she was already in foal. She's from a good line, and the stud she was bred to is by the same sire as Majesty. Then you must have big hopes for the foal. I think you could safely say we had hopes for this foal. Adelia, Travis said with amused formality, meet Salome. Adelia added, you're a fine, beautiful lady. I suppose you would like a closer look, Travis observed. She preceded him and they went into the stall, carrying on a low conversation with Salome as she explored the swollen belly, probing with gentle, capable fingers. After a few moments, she stopped and turned concerned eyes to Travis's laughing ones. The foals turned wrong. The blue eyes lost their laughter and studied her intently. Quite right, Miss Cunnan. Robert Loman agreed with a professional nod. A quick diagnosis.